States William Jefferson Clinton.
Hello, Western North Carolina. I heard a rumor today that there were some folks out here, and now I can see it with my own eyes. I can't tell you how proud I am of so many people coming out, being a part of the campaign, so many people who have knocked on doors, made telephone calls and taken people to the polls. I can't explain the moment when the person I'm about to introduce called me on the phone for the very first time. I had that exciting feeling when the president called me and said, "Sir, our country needs you. We need for you to serve the people of Western North Carolina." He has become a friend. He's become a mentor and someone that this country, we can't say enough great things about what he is able to bring to our country. You certainly didn't come here to listen to me speak today, so I'm going to introduce President Bill Clinton.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to thank Heath for giving me a reason to come back to one of my favorite places in America. I love Asheville. I love Western North Carolina. 23 years ago, in 1987, when it looked like a good idea, 75% of my fellow Democratic governors said if I wanted to run for president after President Reagan finished his second term, they would support me. Hillary and I came to the Grove Park Inn. And I couldn't imagine what being president was like until I played on that old golf course and realized Woodrow Wilson had also played it. And we decided not to do it because my daughter was young and so was I. And Then 4 years later, I ran when only my mother thought I could win. I've always loved this place. I also have to tell you that I asked Keith, the first thing I asked him, he walked out of here, I said, "Where's Thomas Wolfe's home from here?" He said, "Right over there." When I was a young man in my 20s, I read all his books. And when I first came here, that was the first tourist stop I made. And I want to say a little more about that in a minute, because he said a few things that bear on how we ought to be thinking about this today. I'm honored to be here for Heath, for Nicole, Navy, and Island. I told him once if he just showed everybody a picture of his family, he'd get about 70% of the vote. Just don't say anything, just show them a picture of your family. Mayor Bellamy and to all the legislators and other officials who are here, thank you. Folks, I like Heath Shuler a lot, and Hillary and I will always be grateful to him for the support and friendship he gave to her. But that's not why I came here today. He's been a really good congressman for you, too. But that's not why I came here today. You're smart enough to figure that out on your own. I came here today because our country's got a fever and people are mad and anxiety-ridden and upset, and they got every right to be. But I have lived long enough to know, even if you forget about politics, that every time you make a decision when you're mad that's important, there's about an 80% chance you'll make a mistake. And everybody who's lived long enough has done that. I see a lot of people nodding their heads. There's not a living soul in this crowd that's over 45 or so that hadn't done that a time or two. I think it's important to America that he be returned to Congress, and I'll tell you why. I remember once in my first year as president, I had a fellow working for me from Arkansas, and he'd been with me for 10 years, all during my governor's years, and the press was just horrible one day, and I was just getting killed over something or another. And I said, "Craig, did you read that?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "What do you think?" He said, "They keep writing about someone I am not familiar with." I say that because when I was governor for a dozen years, my vote among Republicans went up every year I ran. It didn't go down among Democrats. I just kept trying to leave the door open, work with everybody. And I never thought I was so smart I had all the answers. And that's the kind of person Heath is. What happens in Washington is that they're so far away from you that it's very easy for anybody to be turned from a three-dimensional human being into a cardboard cutout. And to be fair to all the politicians involved, the media has been heavily atomized. That is, you think about it. If you're a guy like me and you just really like to watch sports and movies, you don't ever have to watch the news at all anymore, right? It's hard for a lot of newspapers to keep going. Our kids can get on the internet and find out things in science and technology at 10 years old that I had to go to college to learn. There's a lot of good about it, but it means you got more information than ever before, but it's hard to put it in a framework. And it means that the people that are up there feeling a long way from you, if they're trying to win a fight or gain a little political foothold, know that they might get 5 or 6 seconds on the evening news. It's hard to explain anything worth knowing in 5 seconds. So everything becomes a slogan. You know, they tried to do reverse plastic surgery on Heath in this campaign. Big as he is, it's hard to do. But it's this thing that has happened to our country as we got more information, we grew more diverse, our problems got more complex. There's a temptation to try to make our politics more simple. And lots of this stuff I see in this campaign Doesn't make much sense to me. When I started out, my whole life now is my foundation. But because Hillary's the Secretary of State, she is, thank you very much, I'm proud of her. But in every president's cabinet, every president, without regard to party, there are two people, the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense, who cannot participate in political campaigns because we try to keep our foreign policy and national security above partisan conflict. And that's a good thing. But that means that the only person who could go out and honor people like Heath who supported her was me in this election. So you're stuck with me. And you know, the great thing about being a former president, you can say whatever you want. And the tragedy is nobody cares anymore. Unless your wife is Secretary of State, then they care, but only if you make some horrible mistake that embarrasses her or the president. But we're having fun here. But anyway, I meant to do that. I was just going to go do those things. I was in Colorado the other night trying to help reelect Senator Bennett, who was one of President Obama's big supporters in the primary. I wound up doing all these other events because I don't think anybody's talking to the American people and trying to explain to them what the heck's going on here. I just see all this bomb throwing back and forth, and I don't think people like it very much. And I'm here for Heath Shuler because he tries to treat people with respect and decency and get people together. And America needs that. I don't agree with the way he votes all the time. I like being in a party where we permit people to have a conscience, represent their own constituents, and do what they think is right as long as they listen. What is paralyzing Washington now is the idea that you have to have massive amounts of money to win these campaigns, and the more extreme you are ideologically, the more money you can get. Sometimes when somebody says something doesn't make a lick of sense to you, I have a simple rule: follow the money. But if you're here in Asheville and you try to pull a stunt like that, you'd get voted out in a split second. People would show you the door. You're supposed to listen to people, get everybody together, try to reach agreement, and if you have to have a disagreement, be agreeable about that, because there'll be something else coming up tomorrow morning or next week that you need to work together on. That's the way America ought to work. Heath Shuler every single day tries to make the Congress more like that. I don't know what we would do without him and 4 or 5 others who are trying to humanize the place and treat everybody like they got half good sense. Now, this is an interesting election, and this Tea Party crowd's made it real interesting. And I could, for the Democrats in the crowd, I could make jokes from now to tomorrow morning, and it'd be interesting to you. They nominated a fellow that went to Yale Law School for senator in Alaska who said that Social Security was unconstitutional because the framers didn't provide for it in the Constitution. They should have foreseen that in the 18th century, and we can't do anything else if they didn't. I actually liked it when he said that, because I went to Yale Law School and I met Hillary there, but I've always been nervous about it because it's viewed as an elite institution, and I never wanted to be associated with the word elite in any way, shape, or form in my life. So when that fellow said that, he wiped out the image of my law school as an elite institution. So I'm actually quite grateful to him for doing that. They got a candidate in Colorado running for governor who said that he didn't care what the birth certificate showed. He knew the president was a Muslim who took Christmas out of the White House. So then they showed him a picture of the White House Christmas tree, and the guy said, I couldn't make this up, he said, see, I told you, there's all those hidden Muslim symbols in it.